I needed that song today. I needed
Woo!
that song today. Listen, coming to you live from West Side.
The best
I
side.
had to, I know I am in the Oakland Airport Lounge. Who knew there was one in here? Um, I know. I decided. I was telling my assistant that my chronological age, my mental age, and my physical age are often in conflict. So at the time, a red eye sounded amazing for my mental age because
Mm.
I'm still, either somewhere between in college and shortly after college. But the way my body and my that calendar set up. So anyway, I coming live our first show of 2024. Had to write it for the first time today,
You see,
and it's
well,
interesting.
I was
Well,
just going to
huh,
say my
what?
internal checking and my internal savings do not line up anymore for a red eye. I don't care what part of me is in conflict. We don't line up anymore.
Yeah, I used to hop on a red eye. Well, it's interesting that we're starting off this particular topic of January, kind of in a potentially reflective topic around legacy. And the timing of this, I think, is very, very important. Um, and I'm just going to start right off the bat with, what does legacy mean to you, Miss EJ, in top left square?
Ooh. Um, that one is easy. What's the impact that is left when I'm no longer here?
Mm,
What is it?
mm,
Um, and
interesting.
and it's funny, I've been reflecting on this one a lot, and what has just popped in my head and will not leave is what I want it to be able to be said is, I am because she was. Fill in the
Ooh,
blank, but I am because she was.
wow. If I can fill in a blank, um, I am because he was. As
Mm.
you all know, we had my grandfather's memorial, and it's interesting as I've been talking to people about it. Everyone's like, "Oh, my condolences," and you guys both know, I like, I am full of nothing but pride. This man kicked every rock. He turned every stone.
Mm.
When you have, at the age of 97, a packed house for your memorial, at the age of 97, you don't have
Mhm.
bosses because they are likely not on this planet anymore. You don't have too many peers. You have maybe some mentees, but to be able to do that,
Right.
and the notices that I got, the texts, the emails from people I hadn't even told, and I told my mother, I said, "Wow, he impacted thousands of people." And she's like, "By millions." And I
Mhm.
was like, I
Wow.
stand corrected. I stand corrected. So legacy for me, I am
Mhm.
because retired Lieutenant General Julius Wesley Becton was.
Mm. I have the
Miss
honor of,
Kennedy.
yeah, first, before I even talk about what legacy means to me, um, I had the honor of spending a little bit of time with your grandfather. And in the short time that I got to spend with him, he impacted me. I think we all tend to think of legacy as something that is monumental and has to be in a history book or, acknowledged in a public space. And so for him, it's very easy to see what his legacy is. But after spending some time talking to him and meeting him, I thought about my own grandfather, who I never really saw in that light, but he was the first African American to own his own business in Richmond, California. And people have come after him who have done similar things, and they will be able to fill in the blank and say that they were because he was.
Mhm.
Right. And
Mhm.
it's just when you start to think of things differently through the lens of the people who have impacted you, you start to process legacy in a different way. So for me, what legacy means, and this is something that I absolutely love. Y'all know this is my jam. I could talk about legacy all day. It is one of the things that I love about being in the pageant industry and working with girls to help them create a legacy, is because I truly believe that legacy doesn't start when you are no longer here. I
Mhm.
believe in living legacies, right? I believe that every single day I have an opportunity to create the world that I want to see and the world that I want to leave behind, and to establish the things that will outlive me. And to be totally honest, I think when I was younger, I thought of legacy as something that people would think of me for. And now
Mm,
I am so focused on I'm a vessel, right? And I'm focused on doing whatever God has assigned me to do in this world. And I don't care if people remember my name. I want them to know the God that's in me that created the ability for me to do the things that have impacted them, because he will always be and forever reign. And so they don't have to remember me, but if they just remember him, I'll be fine with the legacy I've created.
I love
I
that.
want them to remember Notorious R.I.G. Let's not get it twisted.
I, I'm feeling you, and you said that, and it made me, and I would be remiss if I didn't say this. This month, well, last month marks the 10-year anniversary of my grandmother passing, and she was the matriarch of our family, right? And so you were talking about your grandfather, Robin, and I was thinking about her, and she married 107, right? So just think, in Nigeria, we do things a little different. So she had, it was a multiple day event where they had like 500 people a day who were showing up to pay homage. And so you think about that, and it was so much about her, but it was also about what was impact and what was created as a result of her. And so when we're talking about that,
Yeah.
it's what was created, what's left that was created as a result of a life well lived.
Yeah.
And you know what's interesting? I think sometimes the weight of that torch and that I don't want to say burden, but the weight of that can be stifling to people, right? I think meaning, I mean, my grandfather, I'm not sure what size shoe he wore, but I mean, big shoes
Can't
to
feel
fill.
them. It don't matter.
Mhm.
I gave myself grace of, oh, I will, the bar that he set is so high. I have no problem with clearing it because I'm going to walk under it the rest of my life. I've given myself permission and grace to walk under his bar that he set. Um, and it's because that, I mean, he had so many firsts. And I think when, as you were talking, I'm thinking about sometimes we think it's these big monumental moments, like the first person to go to the moon, the first person to do, but often what I found, at least the notes that I got about my grandfather and the conversations that I've had with others in the family and outside the family, it's these little moments
Mhm.
that, as you were talking, Kennedy, the small amount of time you spent with him, is in a remembrance. I think about the time, I am not one to do a name drop. However, when I was trying to get some business, and my grandfather, he had always asked, we always had conversation. His passion is leadership, and we'll talk more about that later. But he and I would always talk about business and leadership. As many of you guys know, as you both know, he was a mentor to Colin Powell. And so Colin Powell would share his PowerPoint decks on leadership. So I grew up surrounded by leadership. And one of the things that he would always just um, he was always pushing me in terms of pushing my thinking and when I used his name, the name drop moment, it was I was trying to get some business from this was I think two Department of Defense leaders ago, and I was like, oh, that was a great talk that you did, and he was like, ha ha ha, and I said, I think you know my grandfather, and I said his name. He stopped. He told his handler, let them know I'm going to be late, and he sat and talked to me for 30 minutes.
Mhm.
Nothing about the business, but about my grandfather and the impact that he had on his life. I
Wow.
mean, and he had maybe a 1 minute encounter with him on a receiving line. And so it just those moments and how those we didn't have to be as large and as and large and as voluminous as we I think might make up.
I think we also don't recognize that legacy happens in quiet moments in small places that other people don't even see, and then sometimes you don't even find out about it until the person is gone. So my father passed away some years ago, and our church holds 500 people. There was not a room to sit or stand in this church. It was packed from the gills in this church. And when we asked for people to come forward and do 2 minutes of sharing the stories that they wanted to share about him, literally people lined up on both sides of the church where microphones were set up for them to talk about my dad. And I heard these stories about how he impacted people's lives and what he did that we never knew about, never knew that it was happening. And so I love the gentleness and the modesty of just making impact and being quiet about it and doing it for the purpose of the impact, not for the notoriety. And so sometimes
100%.
legacy is, us moving in a very quiet and modest manner, but always focused on the impact we'll make.
So speaking of that, what will be your legacy in that standing room only time for you, Kennedy?
So y'all know I'm on a mission to create fierce female leaders that shatter ceilings and transform the world. I don't want to just be the only person who's trying to create this space where we reach, equity and we are able to step into our best selves and live our greatest life. I want to touch someone, transform their life, and then have them do it to someone else. Right. So I want to break generational curses and make sure that this is something that goes on forever. So I think, if I do this right, by the time I am done creating this legacy, we will have reached equity in so many places, and we will have women who are not competing with each other, but lifting while they climb and helping others get where they need to be.
Awesome. What is yours?
That the world will be filled of people who are changing the world from the seat that they sit in.
Okay, that's small.
And
That's small.
and it looks different, it sounds different, it feels different, but it really is what everyone's not going to be on a national stage. Everyone's not going to be, the next president of the United States or what have you, right? Everyone's not going to be the next Beyonce. Susie Tuesday impacts, I didn't say you, I said everybody. And you're not the next Beyonce, you are the RIG. Let's be clear.
Yes,
So,
let's be clear.
But there is a school teacher who is going to impact somebody's lives, courses of lives that are going to change the world for the better. And she's doing that from the seat that she's sitting in today. I want to be a part of
Gloria
her.
Henry. Gloria
Right.
Henry. That was my tutor. Yeah.
That's
So
what I'm
let me
saying.
ask. Let me answer. Yeah, I want to answer the question in terms of my legacy with a pivot around what has legacy show up in the workplace. Going back to the quote that was so eloquent around "I am because he was." I'm doing the job that I'm doing today because of my grandfather, as I mentioned around leadership and I fell into healthcare on accident. I stayed on purpose with an awful, horrible personal experience. And every role that I've had since then has been how to change so that there's equal, equitable access to great care. Because at the end of the day, people should not die because of their zip code or the content of their, or the color of their skin, or their their gender identity. And so every role that I've had has done that. Now I have the opportunity to talk with amazing leaders across this country of ours. And because I believe the only way you can change is to change the people who can control the resources. Sometimes that's a resource of one. I can control my own environment
Yes.
about what I do and how I shift. And sometimes it's the resources when you are sitting as a CEO or a CFO or something along those lines, where you can change you can deploy resources in a very different way. You can deploy a different mindset in a very different way. Because to me, legacy often in the workplace is not a positive thing. Legacy thinking, legacy mindset, legacy systems are not always a positive
Right.
thing in the workplace. What are your thoughts?
Whew. So that's that's something I deal with all the time, right? Because I'm always trying to get people to step into and innovate and create something that is going to take us into the future. So sometimes legacy is the thing that keeps us stagnant because we're so ingrained in, well, this is how we've always done it. And
Lord.
this is what's going to get, this is our secret sauce. Well, no, your secret sauce is not what it is of 20 years ago. It's no longer a secret. So it's just sauce at that point. So you have to continually innovate and step into a futuristic plan for how you're going to move things forward. And it's hard to get people there when you're stuck in legacy thinking. So yeah, you hit the nail on the head with that one.
So it's funny because I bring legacy thinking into the workplace in a very different way. Right. And so I'm starting a new role, recently. And whenever I have a new team member, or what have you, and you talk about sort of this legacy mindset, I flip it and say, have the conversation around while you're on this piece of your journey, right? What's the legacy that you want to create? What is it that you want to leave as your piece of the story of wherever you are right now? This part of the chapter, I'm writing the chapter of this book. What is it that I want to be is what will be written about this chapter as a result of the role that I played. And I ask people to answer that question as they're going in. So it's not about, oh, let me reflect on everything that has happened. It is, let's create the legacy that we want to leave behind. And so I think
And
about that
yeah,
in the workplace.
go ahead, Kendi.
I was just going to say, so it's a forward thinking legacy similar to the ones that we discussed that we use in our personal lives. And you bring that into the workplace and help other people sort of come along on that journey to think about what they want to see in the future, which is great, right? I think you are a unicorn. And and
I don't know how to do the unicorn. Okay.
yes, I love unicorns too. And so I think the three of us all share that mindset of how we look to the future and try to figure out what is the thing that we want to carve out and how does that play into the role that we currently have, and what do we want this to look like over the journey that we have in that particular role. I think the three of us share that. But I think that we're different in a sense that if you went into any corporation right now and asked them about legacy, they're going to tell you about the history of the corporation. They're going to tell you about all of the phenomenal leaders they've had in the past and what this company was built on and those principles, and that they stick to those principles. And that is the lens in which they operate, right? And so from that perspective, I think legacy has a greater opportunity because to be shifted because you don't want them to stay ingrained. While you want to remember the reasons why you were created and their, your North Star of where you were headed at the time, you want to be able to innovate and remain relevant in a new day. And that is going to take forward thinking about the legacy you want to create, not the legacy that you already have.
I think about, EJ, your new role that you have at the Bernard J. Tyson, medical school, right? I mean, there's a lot of more words in that name of that building. And it's interesting. I probably, in the role that I have now, because I spent 18 years at Kaiser Permanente, I get asked about him. Did you know Bernard?
Mm-hmm.
And I get the story of I met him, or I never met him, but here's the impact that he had. And then I remember one of the first conversations when this started to become a reality. We were sitting in the boardroom at whatever that address is, where that boardroom is at Kaiser Permanente in Oakland, and I can see and hear him with the flag, and his the only way that he could. I'm not even going to try to mimic his voice, but one of the things that is a consistent thing from everybody that asks me about him and the stories that they tell, and Ruth, who just got an award and named after him, they all shared this same story about his compassion, his passion, and his empathy for underserved communities, and making sure that we have been given this blessing and this gift in the roles that we have, and don't let that go. Don't let that go to waste. And consistently across the board, I hear that about him, and I think about when it was named, when the School of Medicine was named in his honor. I was like, they're gonna get it. They're going to get it. They are going to make sure that is a key cog in making sure that is his vision, his legacy is realized. And I hope I'm allowed to see it.
Mm-hmm.
Hope I'm allowed.
And amen.
And I will just add one more thing, and then we're going to move on. But I have to say this: when something is legacy driven, God will use the right person to make it come to fruition. And I truly believe that this new role that you have is God's way of using the right vessel to make that dream a reality.
I don't believe in coincidence. I don't
I
believe in
don't-
coincidence.
no, I
I
don't
don't
believe
believe
in
in luck. Yes.
Oh,
This year,
right.
I'm claiming intentionality. This is my year around intentionality.
Mhm.
So let's pivot to do something. Write it down. Who wants to take that one?
Whew. I'll jump in on that one because, even, it's January and it's goal season and we're gonna, okay. When you write something down, one, it becomes tangible and practical to you. You have to articulate it. You have to get specific. So take the time, write some versions, put down a sentence, say, what is it that I want to happen? How do I want it to happen? Who do I want to touch? Who am I? And how do I bring it to fruition? But if you don't take the time to actually put pen to paper, it's a wonderful dream. It's a wonderful dream.
It's a wonderful dream that is not realized.
A dream with no action is just something that you think about, right? And so maybe this is a time to throw in a shameless plug that your girl just released something to help y'all write it down. Matter of fact, if you go to Amazon right now, you can order the workbook to help you unleash your breakthrough year. And in that workbook, you can write down all of those dreams, but you can make them tangible goals that you can actually put into place and create the legacy that you were looking for. So shameless, but not so shameless plug.
All right. Okay. So, live it now.
Yeah, this kind of goes back to what I was saying before. It's like you think about legacy, right? And I believe in living legacies, right? So do it now. Live the legacy that you are trying to create. You have to embody that thing and really live that. It's just like when people are talking to me about branding and I ask them the question about, who do you say you are? And then they tell me an answer. Then I say, if I asked 5 people who knew you, what you are, who you are, would they say the same thing? Right. And it's like you have to be the legacy you are creating. So if your legacy is about creating change in the world, but you're not doing anything and you're sitting on your hands, you are not creating the legacy that you desire.
Mhm.
So get out there and live your legacy now.
And I just
Awesome.
piggyback
Go
on
ahead.
that one, and this probably builds into the next do something. There's a quote, and y'all know I love my Tony Robbins. Say what you want, I love my Tony Robbins. Anyhow, but he had a
That's
quote that
too much for
stuck
me.
with me. Well, that's not where we're going. Stay in the light. And Tony said, everybody's life is either rewarding or an example. Either way, it's a gift, right? It's either a rewarding gift or an example of what you should not, could not be and do. So when you think about that, you do something is around give the flowers, give people that when you're seeing it and it's rewarding and it's an example, give them their flowers today because you never know what you encouraging someone will do to propel the legacy that they're moving forward. And if it's to change the world, guess what? Your added boost just changed the world that much more for the better.
Yes. So, flowers below scrolling. Miss Author, Dr. Kennedy Hill Garcia, available on Amazon at a website near you. So I'll talk about the last do something and ask the questions. We started with my grandfather and his memorial, and my uncle did a master class of a tribute to him. And one of the things that he said is, I wish I would have asked him some questions. I mean, my grandfather wrote a book, his autobiography, but there, it was like, I wish I would have asked questions like, he had dementia, and asking him, in the earlier stage, are you scared? What was the most challenging thing that happened in your life? What were your favorite childhood memories? What were your grandparents like? And having that moment to ask those questions, because to the point of giving the flowers now, live it now. It's when we have this gift of people that we hold, or our elders that we hold dear, and actually not even necessarily our elders, our peers, our colleagues, because I'm going to be having these conversations with you two around this. Um, Y'all will be speaking at my funeral. Let's just be clear, because the way I live my chronicle, my biological and my mental life. Anyway, but being able to tell those stories of those we want to honor as our elders and those we want to celebrate as our family and friends. And so with that, final thoughts. Who wants to bring some final thoughts for our first show of the year?
Whew, I'm happy to
Go
jump
ahead,
in.
EJ.
I'm happy to jump in. Final thoughts are one, I love and love hard and love the two of you with every fiber of my being because this is about bringing truth and light into the world. And how we do that is part of the legacy that we're creating in this world. And so taking the time to celebrate the joys of every day, the sorrows of every day, the wins, the losses, the challenges, the triumphs, um, is what builds the life that we want to lead. And there are 9,000 people who are looking at you right now saying, I wish I had the life that you had. So start from a place of gratitude. And there is nothing that we cannot accomplish. So with that,
And with
thank
that,
you all.
and I'm gonna roll that beautiful bean footage.
All the
Well,